Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Gopi Jana Malaba Iri Badadari Gopi Jana Malaba Iri Badadari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Manachari Yamuna Tera Manachari Jai Hurad Umadhava Kunya Vihati Jaya Radha Umadhava Kunya Vihati Gopi Janam Vallabha Idivadadhati Gopi Janaballabha Idivadadhati Yasunanandana Prajajana Ranjana
Wow.
Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachati Yamuna Tira Manachati Jai Radha Madhuva Kunda Vihati Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihati Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatkacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends, say the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivatadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturanam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bol. All glories, assembled devotees. All glories, the assembled devotees. All glories, the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 39th chapter, text 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Gopya Uchu Aho Vidhatas Tava Na Kvachid Daya Samyojya Matriya Pranayena Dehinaha Tams Chakritartan Vinangshi Apartakam Vikridatam Te Arbaka Chishtatam Yata. So Shri Gopya Puju Ahovida Tastava Nakvachitaya Sang Yoja Maitreya Pranayena Dehina Comes Chakritartan Yunang Shapartakam Vikridatam Te Arpakacheshtitam Yata Shri Gopya Huchu Ahovira Tastava Nakvachitjaya Samyoja Maitreya Pranayena Dehina Tams Chakritartan Yunan Shapartakam Vikridatam Tervaka Cheshtitam Yata Shri Gopya Huchu Ovidastava Nakvachitaya Samyoja Maitreya Pranayena Dehina Tam Chakritartan Yunang Shapartakam Krididatam Tervaka Cheshtitam Yata cheshtitam yata. All right. Shri Gopya Guchu. The gopis said, Aho, oh, vidhataha, providence, tava, your, na, there is not, kvachit, anywhere, dvaya, mercy, sangyoja, bringing together, maitriya, with friendship, pranayena, and with love, deyanaha, embodied living beings, tan, them, cha, and, akrita, unfulfilled, artan, their aims, viyungshi, yunakshi, you separate, apart to come, uselessly, vikridatam, play, te, your, arbaka, of a child, cheshtitam, the activity, yata, as. Translation, the gopis said, O providence, you have no mercy. Uh-oh. You bring embodied creatures together in friendship and love, and then senselessly separate them before they fulfill their desires. This whimsical play of yours is like a child's game. So you can repeat, the gopis said, O providence, you have no mercy. You bring embodied creatures together in friendship and love, and then senselessly separate them before they fulfill their desires. This whimsical play of yours is like a child's game. So there's no purport by the servants of Srila Prabhupada, so we're going to read the commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and others. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as in the case of meeting him, the gopis could not find any reason for Krishna leaving them, so they began to criticize the Creator. O Creator, your act of injustice is astonishing. What is so unjust? You do not have one drop of mercy. This is very unfair. How have you concluded this? You bring together people in friendship and intense mutual exchange of mind, life, and intellect, and then separate them again without giving them a chance to enjoy. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, Jiva Goswami comments, in being separated from Krishna, they search out another reason, thinking the Creator is the cause. Thinking the Creator is the cause, they criticize him in 3 verses. Aho expresses lamentation, O Creator, you make everything happen. You should be merciful to all living beings, but you do not have any mercy at all. They indicate his lack of mercy by showing what he does. The jivas living here and there, identifying with their bodies, are brought together as friends only, and then develop affection. This is your arrangement. They indicate that in their meeting with Krishna, they have no qualities to deserve it. It is arranged by the Creator. The word api means and. Then you separate them, though they are not fully satisfied, and they have become useless in their various actions. Apart to come means that which has no goal. Why do you bring them together? Without being satisfied, why do you separate them? We do not understand if there is a reason and a goal. It is improper to suddenly separate those who have come together. An example of uselessness is given. Your playing is like the actions of a child which have no reason or goal. The actions are performed out of foolishness. In his commentary, Sridhar Swami says that Maitreya means affection based on performing beneficial acts. Prayena means affection based on a relationship of love. Or you bring together people with friendship, which is actually pure prema, and then separate them. So again, the verse. Shri Gopya Uchu Ahovidatstava Nakvachadaya Samyoja Maitra Pralayena Dehina Tam Akrit Kartan Yundan Chapartakam Kradidatam Terabaka Chestitam Yata. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shigurveda Maha. So, first of all, I'd like to read the translation of this verse from the Krishna book and then the translation of this verse from the Gopal Champu Krishna book. O Providence, you are so cruel. It appears that you do not know how to show mercy to others. By your arrangement, friends contact one another, but before they can fulfill their desires, you separate them. This is exactly like a child's game that has no meaning. So pretty similar. In Gopal Champu, see the foolishness, the mercilessness, the cruelty of the Creator. Taking away Krishna and going to Mathura in the form of a crow who destroys everyone's intelligence and creates so-called auspiciousness with this ill omen. Though the gopis were sober, they went to the assembly with these agitated words. Their confused condition burns me up, and that's from the Gopal Champu. So, rather than talking about the gopis right now, because it's above and beyond my level of realization, we're going to talk about this particular point they make, which is actually quite a valid point. I've been thinking about this as I get older, that we have so many in this material world, so many like associates and friends and family members, and our identity is based not only upon this body, but upon the connection with all these different personalities. And I was thinking how sad it is, and I'm not talking about devotee association right now, because Prabhupada did say that we have an ISKCON in the spiritual world, and everyone's going there except for Mr. Nair. Mr. Nair, of course, was the person who tried to cheat Prabhupada and take Prabhupada's money and not sell the Mumbai temple. Anyway, Mumbai land. So, speaking in general, I just remember my relatives, my friends, and everything like that. And then after this lifetime, we may never see them again. Or we may see them in different species of life, or we may see them in different relationships. It's just so temporary. I mean, it's amazing. And Prabhupada also gave the example, and this is a standard example given to encourage detachment. He said it's like pieces of seaweed that sometimes float together. I mean, actually, it gets quite depressing if you think about it, isn't it? That, all of our family, friends, relatives, everything's like pieces of seaweed that float together, and then by the action of the current, these pieces of seaweed, they separate. And they even go to opposite sides of the planet, by the current of the oceans. So this is life. And so the gopis are saying there's no purpose to this. And the Mayavadis, of course, they also say there's no purpose to it, and therefore you should become detached. Whereas we understand, at least hopefully we understand, that there is a purpose to these things. In existentialism, they talk about how there's actually no purpose, but everybody has to come up with their own purpose. And if you start to think about it, it'll drive you crazy. And many of the famous existentialists, they actually did go crazy, and some of them even committed suicide. Because it's just like, there's no purpose, I just make up my own, but that my own purpose is not actually a purpose. And so one has to really study the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to understand the reason for these things going on. Not only what's been described here, which is actually, let's say, give a synonym for creator, the time factor, which Krishna, in the Gita, what does he say? Kalo asmi. And also this similar statement, Mritu Sarvaharasjaham, I am all-devouring death. So not only that, the time factor that's being addressed here, but also there's other things that go on in this world, like adhyatmic, adhibodic, and adhidaivic miseries from the body and mind. Certainly, I understand those things more deeply now. Miseries from other living entities, miseries from the material energy in general, the demigods, whatever, like that, too hot, too cold. So you all have all these different things there. And danger, padam, yad vipadam, natesham, is danger at every step. I mean, just like you go to the doctor sometimes, and they make things worse. They try to, we have one devotee, they were extracting a tooth, and they crack the jaw at the same time. I mean, why does Krishna arrange these things? So ultimately we have to understand that Krishna's arranged these things because the purpose of the material world, which Prabhupada talked about many times, is to teach us that we actually belong with Krishna. It's not that Krishna has arranged these things, and we're not talking about the gopis right now. We're just talking about it in a mundane way, not in a mundane way, but from a mundane perspective in this, or the material world. But Krishna has arranged these things so we can, again, revive our eternal relationship with Krishna, because actually, there is no happiness in this material world. I mean, we say this over and over and over again. And, people accuse the devotees of being really negative about this. There's no happiness in the material world. But if you examine the so-called happiness in the material world, it's based, excuse me, it's actually based upon the cessation of pain for some time. I'm not going to drink water right now. This is just my normal cough that I have at this particular point. Sorry. So it's based on the cessation of some imbalance, like the sex desire, or even hunger. We derive great satisfaction by eating, but recently I've experienced that when you're a little nauseous, eating is not actually no water. When you're a little nauseous, eating is actually not that pleasant. You don't even want to think about food. So anyway, so that's the purpose. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam deals, and I have a few quotes here, deals with the time factor, describing the time factor and what do you do about the time factor. Not only do we recognize that this time factor and all these other features in the material world are causing misery and the purpose of that misery, but the question is, what do we do about it? So let me read a little bit from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 10th chapter, text 11, a statement by Maitreya Muni about time. Eternal time, Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. So even the creation of this material world, the dissolution, creation, maintenance of this material world, in one sense can be understood as the Lord's pastimes. The Lord's pastimes of mercy to rectify the conditioned souls. And the purport Prabhupada comments that the impersonal time factor is the background of the material manifestation as the instrument of the Supreme Lord. It is the ingredient of assistance offered to material nature. No one knows where time began and where it ends. And it is time only which can keep a record of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. Time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. The time factor is also explained by modern men in various ways. Some accept it almost as it is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, in Hebrew literature, time is accepted in the same spirit as a representation of God. It is that's like it is stated here in God who at sundry times. Yeah, why did you give me a cough drop? Okay. Okay. It is stated therein, God who at sundry times and in diverse manners, thank you, spake in time past unto the fathers of the prophets. That's from the Bible. Metaphysically, time is distinguished as absolute and real. Absolute time is continuous. And unaffected by the speed or slowness of material things. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. In other words, the changes that one undergoes, especially the living entities. I was actually reading yesterday when Prabhupada was talking about, he actually made the point that there are actually more changes than we normally talk. We normally look at 6 changes, isn't it? Birth, growth, maintenance, byproducts, dissolution, and death. But Prabhupada actually said that there's 8 changes in one particular place. So he talked about conception, and then the growth of the embryo in the womb, and then, of course, then the rest of the birth, growth, maintenance, dissolution, and death. So we can actually measure time like this. Factually, however, time has nothing to do with the relativity of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. With the cough drop really worked. Really cool. Time is of the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future, but in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. Now here's the point. Chanaka Pandit says that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of dollars. Now this is something that Prabhupada would often quote. And therefore, even a moment of time lost without profit must be calculated as the greatest loss in life. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities in themselves, but they are dependent on particular experiences. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, actions, reactions of the external energy of the Lord. The external energy or material nature works under the superintendence of the time factor as the Lord himself And that is why material nature appears to have produced so many wonderful things in the cosmic manifestation. And then Prabhupada quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text 10. Maya jakshena prakriti suyate sa characharan hetunanena kontya jagat pivari vartate. So, and then there's another verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam which illustrates the same point, and that's from the second canto, third chapter, text 17. Ayur harati vaipumsam udyan astam chayanasal ajarte yakshno nita uttamasloka vartaya. And that also translation is, both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada comments, this verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. And of course, we find that Prahlad Maharaj says, Komara achavet pragya dharmam bhagavatam durlabham manusajana tarart adruvam artadam. That, he says, one should actually take advantage of every moment from one's childhood, Komara achavet pragya dharmam bhagavatam, because one's situation in the human body, durlabham manasajanma tarat artadam, so the is actually rare, and one should take advantage of this particular body. And Prabhupada says, time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Human life is awarded to a living entity, Jiva, simply so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. So there's the purpose, the teleos. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of a living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. The Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. Once a person comes in contact with any one of the above-mentioned energies of the Lord, through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, text 40, the Lord has explained such contact in the following words. Endeavors in devotional service are never baffled. In other words, swapamapya shadharmasha trayate mahato bhaya, which indicates that, as we're very much aware, that any advancement in devotional service is not taken away by the time factor. Any advancement in this material realm is taken away by the time factor. As described in the Bible, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. Even a slight beginning of such activities is sufficient to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. And when Prabhupada's purport in the Gita, he explains the greatest fear, of course, is losing the opportunity of the human form of life. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord, injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord, can act very efficiently. Oral realization, of the transcendental messages implies total realization, just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. This realization for a moment in the association of pure devotees like Shukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity. And, of course, in the Bhagavatam, we also have these verses. What is the use of the long life, like the trees, Karvakim, Jivanti, or like the bellows. The bellows, of course, means the pump of the air, for the air. What is the use? Better a moment, one moment of self-realization makes your whole life successful. This realization, here is this statement, for a moment in the association of pure devotees like Shukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity. And thus the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, inasmuch as he is constantly busy in the devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. Death is a symptom of the material infection of the eternal living being. Only due to material infection is the eternal living entity subjected to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialistic way of pious activities like charity is recommended in the Smriti Shastras as quoted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Money given in charity to a suitable person is guaranteed bank balance in the next life. Such charity is recommended to be given to a Brahmin. If the money is given in charity to a non-Brahmin without Brahminical qualification, the money is returned in the next life in the same proportion. If it is given in charity to a half-educated Brahmin, even then the money is returned double. If the money is given in charity to a learned and fully qualified Brahmin, the money is returned 100 and 1,000 times. And if the money is given to a Veda Hadaga, one who has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. The ultimate end of Vedic knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 15:15, Vedascha Sadaraham Veda. There is a guarantee of monies being returned if given in charity, regardless of the proportion. Similarly, a moment passed, here's the point, in the association of pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental message of the Lord is a perfect guarantee for eternal life. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Labhamatra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Koi. Madhama Gatva Punar Janma Navidyate. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is guaranteed eternal life. A devotee's old age or disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life. And just one final verse I wanted to quote in this regard, because we see all these different associates that we have in this material world as basically protecting us or having some ultimate connection with us. And in the second canto, first chapter, text 4, there's an interesting verse that compares these different attachments, different connections, different upadhis, with soldiers, which are very fallible. So the verses, Deha Patra Kalatradishu, Atma Shainaisha Satpapi, Tesham Pramatat Nidanam, Vashanapi Napashati. The persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire about the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. And actually, I have another verse here from 1st Canto, 5th chapter, text 18, which is also about utilizing time properly. Tashayava heto prayateta kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyadaha talabhyate dukabad anyata sukam kalena sarvatra gabira ranghasa. There's that kalena, time factor. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtained even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahma Loka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in due course of time. Just as in the course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. So, the purpose of Varnashram is to actually gradually detach us from this material world. There's different stages, especially the ashrams. Detach us from this material world and we should understand that the connections, the devotional connections we have, are not fallible soldiers. As we mentioned in the beginning, that Prabhupada said we have an ISKCON in the spiritual world. So we are all associates with each other, and when we go back to the spiritual world, we will have these eternal relationships. That's a very positive thing. Oftentimes, when I'm doing a marriage ceremony, I mention that this is a spiritual marriage because they're basing the marriage on service to Krishna, and if they work together cooperatively to serve Krishna, then they will actually be together in the spiritual world. Maybe not in the form that they're in today, but actually ultimately they will be together associating in the spiritual world. So that's what I like to say. Any questions or comments? Questions, comments? The last verse I just read, 1:5:18, which is a really important verse. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet. Very important verse. Prabhupada would sometimes quote this verse. Mm-hmm. So, any other questions? Yeah. How are you confused? It, I mean, if people stick to Krishna consciousness, the relationship, the nature of the relationship will change. That's what I mentioned. When people get married, for example, it's not they're going to be married eternally in the spiritual world. But Prabhupada did indicate that those who go back to Godhead, those who remain within Krishna consciousness, following the rules and regulations, serving His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON, will actually associate with each other in the spiritual world, in different capacities, of course. Does that make sense? Or? Yes. Yeah, we have some relationship with all living, but there's something special. At least Prabhupada indicated that by saying we will have an ISKCON in the spiritual world. What's it? What's that? Yeah, Prabhupada's group. In different rasas, not to say that everybody's in the same rasa, but I mean, some people may go to Ayodhya, but Prabhupada did indicate we have a ISKCON in the spiritual world. It's Prabhupada's words. I'm taking that on face value.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvantam Aravindanalayatasham Bharavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Driya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham